You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Thursday. Did you miss us? Yes, we were off for Monday for the President's Day holiday. I know Uncle Mike and the Rock Lobster, very sad not to get a chance to go head-to-head yet again in our 80s Trivia Challenge. But don't worry, it will return next Monday. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. as well as from the network upon which all you folks are mainlining these days. Hope you've been enjoying the slew of content coming your way. Awesome pro Q&A for all of you pro folks over there with our good buddy Kevin Green, talking a lot of futures-oriented stuff. VIX Futures got in there as well. A lot of good fun over there on the pro. You want to check that out, as well as get Options Oddities coming up tomorrow after Vol Views with our good buddy, the options guy, Mr. Brian Overby. Smart Money says he has a straddle or two he's going to want to talk about. He's a straddle guy lately. Changed his name to the straddle guy. Only one place to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Also gets you access to the pro podcast feed, which has, I don't know, nearly 500 episodes up there now, as well as access to our streams and all sorts of good stuff. Get your name in the hat as well. Added bonus for the February pro trading crate out there. Let's see who's joining us on the old program today. It is the Thursday episode. Unfortunately, the Flowmaster is on assignment, but we are joined once again. I know you're looking forward to his 2024 breakdown, the entire year breakdown, listeners. I think he's going to keep dodging that. He doesn't want to do his homework. But a man who never said the dog ate his homework. None other than the uncleist of Mikes. I should say Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the Thursday show. How was your President's Day weekend, sir?
I can't make it today, Mark. The cat pooped on my homework.
Oh, the cat. See, I didn't factor in the cat. I forgot you were a hardcore cat guy. All right, Uncle Mike, sir, put your talking pants on. It is time for the Thursday episode of the Option Block. Here we go.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we, surprise, tell you what the heck is trading, what is lighting up our tapes out there. And, if we had recorded the show yesterday, let's say Uncle Mike had come on the Futures Rundown with us yesterday, or maybe Options Bootcamp, he would have had a chance to say his beloved saying out there. Today, not so much. The market's back to the red, selling off almost 1% earlier this morning. Looks like we have rebounded a bit off the lows, back below the 6,100 level, even though we're flirting with it again right now. Off about 0.75%, a little more, almost 0.8% in the S&P right now. We tried to rally. It got north of 6,100 again and right back down. Let's see the low for the day. Looks like it was around 60.87 or so an hour or change ago. So hanging out close to 10 handles north of that right now. The NASDAQ off about 0.75% as well. The Dow taking a shellacking today, off nearly 1.5%, about 1.45% right now. And all that red on the screen means VIX turning it up a little bit of a notch out there. Perhaps not as much as you might expect, or perhaps not as much as you might be hoping if you have a little bit of VIX in your back pocket for a rainy day. We're at about a 16 even as we kicked off the show. Puts us up about half a point from where we were exactly a week ago. That said, we did get a little higher, up to about 16 2/3 earlier today before the markets turned and vol turned out there. So if you want to extend it to the apex of the day, we were up over a point in VIX land. Again, I know a lot of you out there are looking for a little bit more upside in VIX. Not exactly materializing today, but then again, the day is young. Our old pal VVIX hanging out pretty much unchanged on the week as well. A 98 even. So yeah, not doing anything since our last show, listeners. All right, Uncle Mike, I know you've been doing a lot. In fact, you were invoked yesterday on our Futures Rundown program. Your ears must have been burning. I will get to that in a little bit. But first, sir, what is catching your eye out there in the markets today?
Well, the market's actually down today. That's not very nice. If I'm going to be on the show, I like markets to be up when I'm talking to the public. What's going on here, Mark?
The Flowmaster, when he's on assignment, the markets get a little spooked. They get a little jittery. Like what is taking his attention away from the option block? And that's when things start to fall apart and really the bottom falls out of the market, I've tended to notice.
I mean, it is down less than 1%, but it kind of feels like a lot more than that, just based on the bullishness with which we've had. I would say what's catching my eye today, looking throughout the various stocks, several individual names are really sticking out to me. The first one that really sticks out the most to me would be JP Morgan Chase, down over 4% on the day. So that's one that's definitely catching my eye. The whole financial sector, for that matter, is down over 2% if you want to look at XLF. And so that, I believe, is probably one of the main things driving down the market, or that is the main thing driving down the market. In the tech world, overall, tech stocks are down, but there's some that are up and some that are down. For example, Apple is up. Gilead is up. And there's several others as well, but Qualcomm is down. And then a few others that are down. Of course, we have, NVIDIA is actually flat on the day. I don't know if those words have ever been said in the history of the stock of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is flat. It's up 37 cents, but you really don't see that little movement on NVIDIA that much. But then you have Netflix is down. Microsoft is up. Facebook, I guess if you want to call that in the tech sector, that is down. So we have a variety of things that are up and a variety of things that are down. And I guess the key is you just want to be in the stuff that's up and you want to short the stuff that's down. It's really that simple when you think about it. Some other stocks that are catching my eye, some things with which that are moving. We have Palantir, that's down 8% on the day. And then we have Amazon, that's down almost 2% on the day. So some are up and some are down, and that's what it boils down to. Silver actually, SLV, I should say, has crossed the 30 mark again. So that could get exciting. So we definitely have that to take a look at. And then with the VIX is up under 5% on the day. So not a major move from the VIX. You'd think it would be up a little bit more with the pullback in the market, but it's never always exact by any means. And then we have a few buyers coming into the bond world. So we have IEF and we have TLT up a little bit as well. So a lot of things happening, and some things are up and some things are down, and that's what I'm seeing.
All right, sir. Since you invoked your beloved silver, sir, that gets me to what I was saying yesterday when your ears must have been burning. We had a fun futures rundown yesterday. Our good pal Carly Garner joined us on the program yesterday. She went deep into precious metals. She was talking a lot of smack about gold, saying gold might be poised for a pretty aggressive pullback. But you know what? Your beloved silver, your beloved shiny stuff was not immune to her slings and arrows, sir. I think her quote was, if I have it correctly, her quote was, "Silver is where hopes and dreams go to die." I think she said over the past, I don't know, was it a decade or so? I don't want to misquote her, but she said something along the lines, there's really only been one sustainable rally that people can really sink their teeth into out there. So talking some interesting smack about your beloved silver to the point where our live chat, Uncle Mike, they had your back. They said, you know what? Might be fun to have a fun head-to-head, a fun debate of Uncle Mike versus Carly on the state of the shiny stuff. So first off, Uncle Mike, what is your knee-jerk reaction to that quote, "Silver is where hopes and dreams go to die"?
Well, I would agree to a point in that if you look at it, hopes and dreams have gone to die there. However, you have to patiently wait for the thief in the night. Silver moves much different. And if you look at it, it'll bore you to death, but every now and then it'll make a run up. And I believe 2011 was the last big run up. So it's been prefaced to all my clients as a small holding, and not small, but like a smaller holding, and to wait for the thief of the night to come at some point. And when he does, that's when we need to take care of business and get out of it. That's my take on it.
We might have to get you booked on the futures rundown in the near future, so you and Carly can go head to head. She had a fun debate with her other nemesis, Dr. Vix, Mr. Rhodes, on our pro Q&A. Maybe we'll do it for all the masses out there on the futures rundown. She's our debate star these days. So it could be kind of fun. So maybe, I don't know, listeners, our pro chat was into that yesterday. We'll have to see if our pro members are intrigued, if they're into that. Speaking of things that we're into, I do believe we are into now our Cboe co-host for the day. I said the Flowmaster on assignment, but you know what? It's a big tag team over there at Cboe, and when the Flowmaster's on assignment, he tags in somebody else, and today we got our good friend joining us once again on the program, Mr. Kevin Carter from Cboe Global Markets, fashionably late as always. Mr. Carter, welcome back to the Option Block, sir.
All right, thanks for having me. Sorry for the tardiness.
The magical technology. I know, the Cboe's got to pay their internet bill over there. That's all I can say.
User, honestly.
Well, Mr. Kevin, I'm glad you can make it on the show today. We were just talking about what's catching our eye in a mostly blood red day out there in the market. What is catching your eye out there today, sir?
There's a name going tonight, Celsius, which has been a pretty, kind of popular name on X. And that's had some interesting headlines the last couple of days where, they have earnings tonight that they, announced kind of out of nowhere. There's been a lot of call activity. This is a big beat up name. And then at the same time, the CEO and CFO are speaking 2 days later. So there's a lot of thought that there is a rumor there that Pepsi might have interest. Who knows? But it's been a very, big name on the social media chains. And, it's got them all alive again. So that's one of the names I'm looking at today. So it's an energy drink name. So, take it with you.
I was going to say, get you all fired up for the show. You pop a Celsius before the show, and then you're ready and raring to go. Are these markets ready and raring to go, listeners? Once again, it depends where you're looking out there, but I will just say this. To get you intrigued, a little bit of a tease, listeners. It's one of the rare days. NVIDIA getting kicked to the curb. It is not number one out there on our single name most active. So the game is afoot out there in the single names. I'll let you hazard a guess what could possibly kick NVIDIA from its throne out there as we start off in the indices, as we are wont to do. And is it a banger name out there in the indices? Now, you look at the market today, you might say, retreating a bit off the all-time highs, but not even a full percent, about 0.75%. VIX struggling to maintain a point to the upside, just about half a point right now. Doesn't seem like a banger day out there. And, for the most part, you'd actually be wrong. Things are looking pretty spicy out there today. If you just looked at these volume numbers without any other context, you might look and think, man, we're really selling off out there, or we had another really aggressive intraday whipsaw out there. That's not really the case, but maybe it's just the fact that we haven't seen a lot of red on the screen in a little bit. Maybe it's just the recency bias of green all the time. Whatever it is, we're seeing a decent volume out there across the board today. Let's start in VIX land. VIX 471,000. May not sound like a lot, but the ADV has kind of fallen off a cliff since our last show, listeners. It's down about 100,000 contracts to 837 right now. That's still impressive, but it's down. Again, we were closing in on almost 100,000 contracts a day, more than that. So obviously VIX has been a little light of late. Today, bucking that trend, nearly 500,000 contracts on the tape, 471 right now. What's the big dog out there as VIX is getting a little bit of juice back? Looks like we have the 20 calls in March going up 36,000 times. They went up for $2.31. Doesn't look like they went up as a spread, so someone could be bailing on these, or this could be straight up. They went below the bid, though, which is kind of interesting. Maybe we got a bit of a overwrite in VIX land. If that's the case, I can't say I fault the person. We have mostly had very short periods of time to capitalize on any small VIX pops we get, so maybe they've seen that playbook and they want to dance. 34,000 for number 2 of the March 23s. You might say, hey, that looks like a spread, but that is not done in a spread with the 20s. That is against something else, and I can't see what the leg is right now, but they went up for 78 cents as well. A total of 34,000 times, so pretty close. Number 3, 26,000 of the March 15 puts. We were joking about the Feb 15 puts on VolViews last week. We said it was kind of a roll your dice type trade. I joked on the show. I said VIX is probably going to pop right around settlement time and then come right back down. I was about a day late, but that's pretty much what happened. Those 15 puts obviously going the way of the dodo, but somebody re-racking to the March to the tune of 26,000, 25,000 of the May 20s today, and 24,000 of the March 17 puts. By the way, there's OI on all those strikes, so all of those could potentially be closing, which is kind of interesting. Either way, a little bit of heat in the kitchen in VIX today. But you know what? If VIX has a little bit of heat, then SPY is a raging inferno. Usually we expect SPY to be, around 4.25, 4.33 million contracts this time of the show. We are closing in on 6 million contracts right now, 5.9 million contracts. So SPY is hot. SPY is on fire right now. The ADV come in quite a bit, down to about 7.75 million. It's been a while since SPY's been below 8 million ADV. I got a feeling after today, going to be going back the other way. The S, same deal. If SPY is hot, you got to expect the S to be hot, right? And that is the case out there. 2.25 million in the S, fully 500,000 more than we expect this time of day. So S looking hot, looking spicy. The ADV 3.29 million out there. I'm going to do our fun test just to see. Usually when things are a little spicy, we don't see a ton of non-zero day in the top 20. That's pretty much what we see. We see all 20 for 20 listeners expiring today. That is just the modern SPX. All 0 day all the time. The big dog out there today, 54,000 of the 6130 calls. Again, expiring today. I don't think I don't think we threatened that level. Let me look out here today. I don't think we threatened 61. Actually, we did earlier this morning with 61.29. So I'm going to hope for their sake they crushed those the second we got there and then closed them out when they got back to about 60.87. Because 61.30 seems like a bit of a bridge too far right now for today. But then again, the day is young. Anything can happen, including small caps putting up nearly 1 million contracts. 950,000 contracts on the tape today. The ADV 1.2 million out there for small caps. We might hit that by the end of the show. In fact, you know what? Just for fun, I know we got some small cap fans out there. The nice thing about small caps is that they're not as 0-day obsessed as everything else. So yeah, looking right here, the number one most active is expiring today. We've got 75,000 of the 225 calls. Right now, small caps at 223.5 in IWM, so a little bit of a ways to go. And then number two, 61,000 of the March 215 puts. And then number three, 49,000 of the April 213 puts. So we're all over the place in small caps, which is kind of refreshing. The S&P, for whatever reason, kind of locked in this 0-day mode. Call it what you will, this obsession. But interesting stuff. If you're part of that, hey, enjoy. And then the Qs. 2.75 million contracts, fully 500,000 more than we expect out there in the Qs this time of day. And we are coming to these numbers a little bit earlier in the show as well than we normally do. So these are hot, listeners. The ADV, nearly 4 million, probably going to hit that today. Maybe even, I should say, by the end of the show. I know a lot of you have been waiting. A lot of you have been playing the guessing game since I teased you a few minutes ago. What could possibly usurp the beast, the juggernaut that is NVIDIA? Well, let's find out, listeners. Is it a banger day, by the way, on single names? The answer is decidedly yes. It's a spicy one out there, listeners, just across the board. Cost you $427 to break into our top 10 today. That gets you to our old pal. You know we're in earnings season, listeners, when Walmart is breaking into our top 10 in the most actives. You probably heard the news. Walmart kind of spooking some folks out there. Even though they had some interesting demo numbers, sounds like more affluent consumers are going to Walmart. I guess read into that what it means for the state of the economy. But overall, they kind of warned for the rest of the year. Market never loving that. Walmart 97.25 right now, off nearly $7, about 6.75, about 6.5%. They are off their recent 52-week high of about 105 1/3. So they were just there pretty much just yesterday. So, yeah, giving that up. 52-week low, 57.60. So, obviously, still towards the pretty much top of their 52-week range, but taking a little bit on the chin. Good for number 10 today, 427. Again, you know the game is afoot when Walmart's breaking into the top 10, and we're all the way at almost 430 already, just at number 10, listeners. A spicy day, if I do say so myself. So, strap in, number 9. We've got good old Softy, Uncle Mike's beloved Softy, 417.5, up about $3.50, or not even a full percent, about 0.85%. Again, good for number 9 today, 436 on the tape. Number 8, it's AMD, 512. We're already at 8 listeners, we're already at 500,000 contracts. So again, that's a spicy meatball when we're getting that high that quickly. AMD, 113 and about 2/3, off about exactly $1 or nearly 1%. So not feeling the chip love today, even though they had a spike earlier in the session. Looks like up to 116.5. Giving that back up now. They got as low as 113.10. It seems like they're going to be threatening that again pretty soon. Number 8, AMD, 512. Number 7, keeping it in domestic chips and technology. It's Intel, 2490. They've been a bit of the belle of the ball of late. Let's see, over the last month, they're up 14.5%. But they are selling off from their highs that they hit yesterday, 27.39. They're down to 24.89 right now, down another nearly full point or 3.25% just today. So maybe some of the bloom coming off the Intel rose, but they're hot. They're spicy on the options front. 612 on the tape for Intel. So that's a heck of a lot of paper for Intel. And we're only at number 7, listeners. Number 6, the fruit company. You know it's a decent day when Apple's all the way down at number 6. 626 on the tape, 245.5, up about $0.0025. They have their iPhone 16e. There were rumors about it. Now they have launched it. Usually Apple's very much a buy the rumor, sell the fact. Today it looks like it's a vacillate around the fact. Kind of slightly unched on the day, really about $0.50. Kind of a rounding error for Apple. Number 6, 626 on the tape. Number 5, good old Super Microcomputer Inc. 1.09 million. We're already north of a million, and we're only at number 5. It's been a while since we've seen that hot of a single name day, listeners. So we're into some rarefied air here. SMCI 59.5, off about 3/4 of a buck, or about 1.25% out there. Looks like it had a low of 54.30 today, a high of 62.5 bucks. So nearly, actually a little over $8.17 range for SMCI. So we're just hanging out right now off half a buck. It's just a rounding error. My goodness, this thing off to the races out here. You know what? I am intrigued. Let's just look really quickly, listeners. What is lighting up the tape out here in SMCI? Like we said, over a million contracts. The big dog, 77,000 of these 70, oh my goodness, 70 calls expiring tomorrow. I had a feeling it was something like that. They traded for, looks like 21 cents, all the way as high as 38 cents this morning. Oh my goodness. These are the 70s, listeners, expiring tomorrow. The stock was $57, and these things traded for 38 cents. Looks like some of them, hopefully a lot of them, hopefully all of them were sold. Oh, actually, I take it back. Some traded 64 cents. The second the stock ticked $60 this morning, someone traded these calls for 64 cents. Someone probably paid 64 cents, listeners, for these 7-0 calls in SMCI expiring tomorrow. Wow, that is... We already have a flash poll going. We might have to add that to the list of complete insanity. Jeez. Wow. Are we back in, is it meme? What is it, 6.0 by now? Meme Revolution 6.0? This certainly has the whiff or the air of that about it. My goodness. You're not even getting a week. You're getting a day. 60 cents. Over 10 handles out of the money. A little bit less than that when they bought these, but still. Wow. Listeners, are you slinging SMCI? That is some spicy paper. Number 5, 1.09 million for SMCI. And again, you know it's a spicy day when Tesla's all the way down at number 4. Nobody gives a crap about Tesla. 352.82. Man, this thing, for Musk being so inextricably linked to the new administration, this stock has taken a drubbing so far this year. Off another 7.25 or 2%. 353 1/3. That puts it year to date. I thought it was off more. It's off 7%. That's still a lot. But from its highs, it got up to about 430 on January 15th. So it's off nearly 80 handles from there. So from peak to trough, it's obviously looking a lot worse. It got down to 328, obviously. So it had exactly, I think I pointed this out a couple of weeks ago. It had exactly a 100-point range. The high was 428. The low was 328. So I guess glass half full, it has rebounded from that 328 level. But man, they took 100 points right off the top. My goodness. Number 4, Tesla, 1.2 million. And what could beat Tesla today? Let's find out. It's Alibaba. Post-earnings explosion out there. 1.28 million contracts on the tape for Alibaba. 135 3/4. I guess the street liked what they had to say. Up nearly $10, 9.25 or 7.3% revenue and earnings per share beat. Yeah, that's usually a good sign. They beat estimates. Cloud unit doing well. E-commerce growth. That's good because they are a big e-commerce name. That's kind of in the name. Kind of like Tesla. Got to make money selling electric cars. I know they do well on carbon credits and all these other things, but and Bitcoin. But you got to make money at the core business at some point. So it looks like they're doing that. Oh, they also talked about a major AI investment. There you go. 2 magical letters. What do I always say? They're worth at least 10, maybe 20%. Close to that, 8% for Alibaba today. Number 3, like I said, number 2, NVDA. When's the last time we saw that? 1 3/4 million contracts on the tape. 139.59, up about 36 cents, or about 1/4%. So as Uncle Mike said, kind of unched, even though it's had more of a range today, nearly a $4 range, low of about 136 3/4, the high of about 140.5. So it's had a range today, but kind of hanging out right now. Good for number 2, 1 3/4. And now we get the answer to our trivia question that has vexed you, I'm sure, listeners, since I teased you, about 10 minutes ago. What could possibly kick the mighty NVIDIA to the curb? It's got to be something else AI, right? And it is. It's our beloved Palantir. What a freaking roller coaster this thing has been on. Is all I could say. Just talk about meme 4, 5, 6.0, whatever you want to call it. It was just in the 60 handle not too long ago. Got all the way up to, I think, 123 this week. How high did it get? 124, maybe 124.85 on Tuesday. Back down to a whopping 102 today, off nearly another $10, $9 and change, or 8%, trading a little bit shy of 103 right now. It got as low as 96.36. We were just talking about our Palantir Put Palooza poll from last week. I'll get to that a little bit later on the show, the results for that. But man, Palantir, good for number one out there today, listeners, 2.19 million. By the way, we have a fun flash poll going. We did a little bit of digging earlier this morning to see what is trading out there. And one of the big prints out there, when there's a lot of big prints, obviously, with 2 million contracts, but one of the big prints, over 4,000, I believe, were the Feb 28th, so expiring on the 28th, 72 puts, traded for 16 cents this morning. So we asked our audience, quite simply, at that price, are you a buyer, a seller, or are you just not interested? And nearly half of you, 46.7% right now, say you want to buy them. 20% only say you want to sell them. And 33.3%, so exactly a third, saying, you know what? That's too spicy for me. I'm not going either way. I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. I mean, you don't have a lot of time. You got a week and a day. 72 strike sounds insane when it was 124 yesterday, 2 days ago. But again, this stock is insane. So that'll be live. That's a flash poll. That'll be live. We'll keep it live throughout the podcast as well, the rest of the day, so you folks can play along as well. Again, a lot of this action coming on the heels of earnings season, listeners. Stay tuned to the website, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. That way you'll know the second the latest earnings move results, and earnings season reports are released from our friends over there at ORATS. Right now, the season, like I said last week, listeners, kind of quieting down. I got a feeling once we get the updated report for today, in today's action, that number might change. But we were hanging out at about a 106 right now, which is close to even, close to par, which is actually below our 117% long-term average. Again, I have a feeling once we get the hot off the presses reports for today, that number is going to change. So keep an eye out for it for yourselves over there, theoptionsinsider.com. We also tweet them when we get them out as well. So you can follow us on Twitter. You'll see when the latest earnings reports are available. But now it's time for Kevin to hold court on 30 minutes of unusual activity that he personally noted today. Yes, it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, time to get weird, time to get wild. This is usually the portion of the show where I toss it to the flow master and he holds court with some wild options paper that has caught his eye this week. Kevin, I was just joking about the half an hour, but if you got a bee or two in your bonnet, you got a trade or two you want to discuss with our audience, hit us with a ticker, sir.
Sure. There's one, QTBS. It's a quantum name. There is this March 7 time series. Looks like it's getting quite a bit of activity in the call side. 9,000 trade in the 7.5 calls, nearly 4,000 trade in the 7 calls. So, the quantum names have also been quite volatile, but perhaps they think that this is now the time that they're going to turn back up. They all look like they're breaking above key trend lines again. So, but definitely something to look for here in the quantum space.
Like quantum, you're right, has been very hot. We were talking a lot not that long ago on our Options Oddities program. You folks can check it out over there on the pro listeners. I think we had Matt on for that, and we were diving deep into some quantum straddles, easy for me to say. Names like Rigetti and others. This has been a hot space. Kind of quieted down a little bit. Seems like it's popping again. This is D-Wave Quantum Inc. listeners, ticker symbol QBTS. This is a newcomer. I don't believe we've added this to our legion of quantum names. There are a bunch. Quantum, not quite the AI of 2025, but it's a hot thing. You whisper quantum, you're going to get a little bit of a pop to your stock. And that's what's happening today. Almost $7, $6.97, up about 43 cents, or about almost 7% today. On the year, you could probably guess what this chart looks like. Not doing a hell of a lot until November, December of last year. Then it got lit on fire. That's what all the other quantum names have done. And that is pretty much exactly what this chart did. A year ago, they were trading $2. And they hung out there. They actually sold off down to $1. So as of election day, they were down 50% on the year. And then lo and behold, election day came. Also, that was the time frame, you'll recall, listeners, when Google was making some headlines about their developments in quantum, which really kind of kicked all this off. There was a lot of speculation. Can quantum eventually break the blockchain? There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of drama, and that led to these names really getting hot. Looks like D-Wave got all the way up to $11.41 on January 6th, an inauspicious day if ever there was one, listeners. And then it just fell off a cliff on January 13th. So pretty much exactly a week. It went from $11.41 to $3.83. So they just kind of wiped this thing out. And then they slowly have been rallying it ever since, from January 13th. So a little over the last month, it's up, let's see. It's up to, from 383 down to where it is right now, or up to where it is right now, nearly $7, $6.99 out there right now. So a good year, a good month and change, even though we're still kind of off the highs out there right now. And as Kevin was alluding to, we got some action out there in QBTS today, including the Feb 7. So again, these are at the money calls expiring tomorrow, going up 10,000 times, listeners. We did obviously get up to $7.50 today, so these were looking pretty good early this morning. So I'm gonna hopefully assume they opened in the morning and then immediately close them. Let's see, they traded 26, 27 cents all the way up to 40 cents. That 40 cents was part of a spread though. So let's hope they bought them at 26 and bailed on them at 40 and maybe rolled to the 7.5s, because the 7.5s were also pretty active today, doing 10,000 of those bad boys as well. Those traded, looks like a dime all the way up to 20 cents. So 7.5s may be a bit of a bridge too far, but they both have traded now about a total of 10,000 times. So you like any of those, listeners? Again, this is a one-day roll of the dice. QBTS just ticking $7. So the 7s are now a literal coin flip, and the 7.5s, you got a bit of a ways to go. You like either of these, listeners? Are these hot? This could be a fun flash poll as well. But intriguing stuff. Kevin, you say quantum, and people are their ears are going to perk up. They're going to sit up. Anything else catching your eye out there today or this week, sir?
I mean, the China trade is still very much alive here. Baidu reported it's hanging in there, but those names have really ran. So it just I'm kind of watching how Baba kind of takes this direction of that sector. We'll see if they kind of blow off top. I mean, they've had such a run here in the last couple of weeks. I think 50% in some of these names. So it'll be interesting to see how Baba is digested tomorrow after this, and the rest of the names.
Yeah, I mean, they're popping hard now. All you got to do is whisper the two magic letters of AI, and you're good for at least 10%, and that seems to be about what Baba is getting today. Let's keep rolling, listeners. Let's go out here to see what the Eye of Sauron has fixed its fiery gaze on today. And you know what? Let's go out to Compass Inc., real estate brokerage firm, listeners. I'm trying to think. We have talked about this one, but it's been quite some time. Ticker symbol COMP, C-O-M-P. They just had their earnings, trading about $9.79, off about 45 cents today, or about 4.4%. So the revenue was up, but the stock taking a little bit of a hit. Let's look at on the week, though. Yeah, on the week, it was trading $7.50 just yesterday. So it's had a nice little pop. Got up to, looks like, it was trading $7.50, last week. And then it got up to, looks like 10.25 yesterday. And so it's had a nice run. $8 on Tuesday, 10.25. Not a bad do, as the kids say, settling back to about 9.75 right now. So a nice little run. On the year, it's also been a good year for Compass. A year ago, 365. So that's interesting. Usually, well, you expect rate cuts would help, but obviously still rates have been stubbornly high for the entirety of this past year. And yet this name has done fairly well. 365 a year ago, they got up to about 7 1/3. So they had pretty much doubled by the end of the year, December 4th. So a good year by any measure. They gave some of that back through the early part of the year sell-off back to about 538. And then since then, they've rallied over 4 handles, including the big pop this week. They were a little bit shy of $8 on Tuesday, and then they rally, I should say, up to 10 1/4. So it's been a nice, just so far start to the year. They're up 68% so far this year. So a good year for residential real estate brokerage. Go figure. But what did our Eye of Sauron find out here today? Listen, you know what? Somebody may not be feeling that eternal ray of optimism out here. Somebody this morning came in and said, March 9 puts, how are they? The stock at the time was, let's see, where was it? It was about $10, 10.07. They said, how are those March 9 puts? They got 20 cents at a quarter. They said, I will pretty much pay a quarter 5,000 times. Again, no earnings, obviously. They just had earnings this week, so you're not going to get another announcement until May 8th. So this appears to be what it looks like on the surface. Somebody either a little bit spooked or also, they've had a nice run. If they had the stock back at 365 a year ago, I mean, $9 is still above where it was trading just a week ago. They don't mind stopping themselves out at an effective price of $8.75. They're going out to March. So they get a little bit of a duration. They're not just buying, next week's puts. It is still a 60 vol, though. It is still kind of juicy. So they are paying up a little bit for it. And then they came back. I guess they were still spooked because they bought another about 1,500. This time they bid them up to 30 cents. And then they kept coming back. A total of 8,500 had traded on the day as of the start of the show, listeners. So somebody's either looking to lock in a little bit of profit out here in Compass, or maybe they're thinking that this rally is a wee bit overdone. I just checked, a total of 8,700 have traded on the day. Looks like they've traded as high as, looks like 30 cents was the apex out there. So yeah, a whole bunch of puts in Compass. I don't know, Kevin, is interesting. You wouldn't expect a real estate residential brokerage name to have the banger year that it has had, and indeed the banger last month. So maybe kind of reasonable that somebody's looking to hedge some of that upside. What are your thoughts on this palooza of puts in Compass, sir?
I mean, I think you're spot on there. I mean, yesterday it had a 20%, pop, and I think that it really does just kind of look like someone that's trying to lock in, that recent gain here. At the same time, I mean, from my standpoint, I mean, I'd love to sell offer side. It's just there's not a lot for me to do with a 30-cent put, but I mean, that vol is certainly juicy. But I really don't know if this one smells too bad. It might just be someone looking to hedge. So.
Yeah, usually we talk about a lot of upside optimism. Today, for what it's worth, listeners, the Eye of Sauron's gaze was firmly fixed on puts. There are a lot of puts out there going up today, which, again, kind of speaks to the kind of day we're having. Surprisingly beefy, surprisingly heavy day out there, given what we're seeing. And I mean, the market's not doing nothing today, but it's not exactly melting down 2-3%. Vol isn't skyrocketing. If you looked at these numbers, you might think that's exactly what was going on. Speaking of the sky falling, Uncle Mike, you are not only our resident Permabull, not only our resident Silver Bull, you are also our resident Palantir Long. So I get to ask you about this one. I mentioned it earlier. Let's get an updated number now. A Palantir, just the rally's been insane, kind of falling off a cliff here now. In fact, I'm going to cheat, Uncle Mike. I'm going to bump up our poll. I was going to save it for the mail block, but let's just do it now, why don't we? Let's go out to the results of our poll from last week about this very divisive name. We said, hey, Palantir at the time had a PE north of 600. When I checked yesterday on Options Bootcamp, it was north of 650. So we were getting wild. We said at that level, you don't have to be a strict market fundamentalist to ask the question, do the magical letters of AI trump the other two letters known as PE in the modern market? Gave you 4 choices. AI does trump PE, or you know what? PE at the end of the day trumps AI? Or, who cares at the end of the day if the stock goes up? You don't care what's doing it. Or is it time to buy some Palantir puts? And you know what? Our audience, very savvy bunch that you are, over a third of you, 34.5%, said, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to buy some Palantir puts. Hopefully you did just that, because those puts are paying. I have to admit, I was pricing up some Palantir puts and some put flies and put spreads and things like that out there as well. I didn't find any that floated my boat, but hopefully some of you folks did, because it has been a lot of downside out there of late. Number 2, AI trumps PE, 27.3%. And then PE trumps AI, 21.8%. And who cares if it only goes up? We've got 16.4%. Today, Uncle Mike, our poll still hanging out at about 47% of our folks want to buy. They want to pay 16 cents for those 72 puts expiring next week in Palantir. 20% want to sell them, and about a third say they're just too scared to touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. Again, no answer is wrong, unless Uncle Mike says so, because he's our resident bull. Mr. Uncle Mike, first off, as our resident Palantir long, what are your thoughts on this kind of meltdown out there this last couple of sessions? And B, what are your thoughts about our audience wanting to buy some puts and also wanting to buy these Feb 72s for 16 cents, sir? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is not a stock that I would have anything to do with if it did not have the juicy calls to create the very risk-appropriate collar that I'm in. If you just look at the movement of it today, it was down at 95 and now it's back at 103. I mean, this thing moves all over the place. And so there's a reason with which you're able to put on collars on something like this that actually does it. So in terms of where it is, I think it's something to where, yes, I do believe in this case, AI can trump PE over the course of the next couple of years. No question about that. And is it time to buy some puts and be short it? I mean, I suppose if you want to go down that road, you could. But what I would definitely recommend doing is setting up some type of an option trade in some way, shape, or form to do it and be very safe with it, because this thing was down at 95 today and now it's back at 103. So it's not really something for the faint of heart.
Kevin, obviously, this one's coming up on a lot of scans these days. You folks are obviously seeing this over there at Cboe. What are your thoughts on this wild run that Palantir has been on, PE be damned, and then B, our audience wanting to fade it? They wanted to buy some Palantir puts, and then specifically this morning, they want to buy the 1 week to go 72 puts for 16 cents, sir.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some technical chart damage occurring in this name, especially the last couple of days. I mean, this tripled since early November. So, we're not that far off the highs, so it's still a lot of room below. There's a huge gap there between 85 and 100. So it's got some, repair that it has to do. But at the same time, it's a name that, it's close with Washington. It's close with the president. And, I don't know. These, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, it's hard to fade their companies and look at them on PE when they're much more than that, So I don't know. I see the thesis, but again, I would rather play it from a volatility standpoint and use the implied vol here is quite high. So you're getting paid to sell options in here if you have a view. So I'd much rather go that route. You're saying sold to you to all of our listeners out there on those. Well, I mean, just the premium, not just, the direction I'll stay agnostic on. All right, really quickly, we are coming up against it here. This comment in the chat from Mr. Unlimited here. Wow, how much more SPY 0 day does than small cap 0 day. Yeah, that's something I've commented on a bunch on our TWIFO program. It's kind of fun if you hear me trying to break down. First off, the options on the E-mini, it's 3 million plus contracts a day. It's literally like spitting into a hurricane trying to find interesting nuggets. On top of that, 500,000 or more of that, maybe 1 million of those contracts are garbage put bombs that just get in the way of everything. So
sorting through all of that is laborious. Obviously, less volume in the Russell 2000, but also on the Russell 2000 futures options or on IWM, you see kind of the trend that I highlighted that you're pointing out there, that it is a little bit more diverse in its paper. For whatever reason, it's a smaller index, smaller flow, maybe not as much institutions. Institutions have obviously been lured into the 0-day, I should say, game quite a bit. There's no way SPX is doing 50% of its flow in 0-day without institutions playing ball. So could it be some of that as well? It is interesting to see just how different small caps flow is than everything else. Again, it's a much smaller market cap index. You could buy the whole thing for pretty much the price of Apple or NVIDIA. So read into that what you will. But you're right. Every time we do it, and if I do it a little bit on TWIFO later today with our good buddy Dan Graham, so he'll be joining me in a little bit, then I guarantee you there's a good chance that, the number 2 or 3 trade will be, let's say, some March downside puts or something else like that. We see a ton of that. Not to say it's immune from the 0-day flow. There's 0-day flow in IWM and the Russell 2000 options as well, but it's nowhere near as dominated. And you're right. I haven't really gotten to the bottom of why that is, other than just at the end of the day, small caps kind of march to the beat of their own drum. They do their own thing. The calls will get bid. That doesn't happen in any other index. They will trade beyond 0-day. That doesn't happen in most other indices. They just kind of do their own thing. And that's why it's a fun index to keep an eye on as we go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode on Monday. And Kevin, I lied. I missed this question here from Rich Arthur, which seems like it's up your alley. Maybe you can give us some insight as our duly appointed Cboe representative. Rich wanted to know, are the VIX futures options currently trading? I can't seem to find them on my broker. So, Kevin, if you have any update on the VIX options on futures, what's going on with those, any kind of volume or anything like that, have at it. And then B, what else are you keeping an eye on until next week, sir, over the weekend?
Sure. They definitely are trading. I'm not sure why they're not being shown on that brokerage. As an aside, I was having an issue with some of my mobile brokerages. Maybe there's an issue out there. And then what am I looking for going? There's just, there's a lot of things that have run and a lot of things that have kind of broken down. So it's been healthy in a way there, but, these big leaders, NVIDIA, BABA, these tariffs that keep coming at us. Today you saw the cruise line. So it's a time, I think, to be nimble because you just don't know what headline is coming. Tomorrow is Friday. Fridays have been kind of, scary with what headline comes out at 2:00 from Washington. So, but at the same time, overall option implied volatility is on the lower side. So I think that, if you're looking to take some directional, protection or bets, long volatility could work here in the near term. So especially as we don't know how we're going to kind of come out of this, tariffs and whatnot.
Yeah, Rich is not the first listener to complain he's having a hard time finding these VIX options on. I guess they're having a hard time disseminating through a lot of the platforms. Do you know the ticker offhand again, Kevin? We can remind people of where they can go look for these.
The VIX futures ticker offhand, you know what? I actually don't. I will have to check on that if you give me a second.
Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week through the weekend until we gather here together on Monday?
Well, you know what? I'm going to take a controversial stance. I'm watching silver, by gosh. We're above the 30 level in SLV, so I'm going to watch and see if it continues. So far throughout 2025, we've had buyers come in whenever we've had a down day or a down couple days, I should say, in the S&P 500. So seeing if the buyers come in at that stage, we definitely did not have as much VIX movement as meaning that the VIX doesn't apparently think that the sky is falling. So seeing if the buyers are going to come in there and then seeing how this market actually plays out, seeing if we can get some of the stocks that have pulled back significantly to jump on this bull train and see if we can all move up together.
All right. That music means there's no more togetherness, at least not on this program, but if you want a little bit of togetherness on the futures options side, I'll be joined once again by our good buddy, Dan the Man Grams, to hold court on all things lighting it up over there on CME from a futures options perspective. So stay tuned for that. Should be a good time. But before we go, Mr. Kevin, A, if you found that VIX options on futures symbol for us, have at it. And then B, if folks want to check out all the cool stuff coming down the pipe from the Cboe, where should they go? What should they do?
Sure. The symbol, our live ball symbol here is UX. Our Stylex terminal is UX for the VIX futures options. So please try that on Bloomberg. It would be under USDA Index Oman. So please look under those. And on TT, it would be VX. But and then coming up tomorrow, we've got a webinar at 8:30 Eastern with our derivatives intelligence, head of derivatives intelligence, Andy Zhu, and she's meeting with Kathy Wood. So that's at 8:30 tomorrow. If you want to register on that, you can go to Cboe.com.
Mandy's always good, and Kathy always good for usually a controversial statement or two. So if you want a little fun, check that out over there, Cboe.com. And you want to check out the Flow Masters platforms, what he and the rest of the team are working on. You know where to go. Cboe.com/RMA stands for Risk and Market Analytics. You too can try out the Eye of Sauron for yourself. Fair warning, once you do that, you'll never go back. Listen to Cboe.com/RMA. And Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, where should they go if they want to try out the Uncle Mike suite of goodies?
By all means, go to stcharleswealth.com, check out my website, make an appointment to talk with me. Would love to have a conversation with any of our listeners. It's always good to hear what people say when they're on the other side of it, because we don't hear it today.
All right, listeners, check them out, stcharleswealth.com. That is going to do it for us on the option block, but not done today, not by a long shot. Back in a little bit to talk some futures options goodness over there on TWIFO. Back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, for some vol goodness. Who's going to join me on Vol Views? You got to tune in to find out. And then, of course, one final time, exclusively for the cool cats and kittens hanging out in our secret club. Man, that's a dated reference if ever there was one. Early pandemic reference there. Only one place to go to check out options, oddities, and everything else, the optionsinsider.com/pro. Then we're off for the weekend until we're back again for another 80s trivia battle on the Monday episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. When it comes to trading volatility, trust Cboe, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. Cboe's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.